Rock. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first episode, number 1, of Wyatt and Doc Talk Rock. I am Kenny Wyatt West, and
I'm Rob Doc Farrell.
He really is Doc Farrell, by the way. That is his nickname. Is my middle name Wyatt? No, but my last name isn't Jones, nor is my first name Party, yet Doc and I play a band called Party Jones, so just step back.
Party Jones.
Party Jones. Party Jones. It depends where you put the accent. Party Jones.
It's all about the emphasis.
It's all about the emphasis.
Souvenirs.
Anyway, so you're seeing what you're in for, right? Very early on. Rob and I, Doc over here, have a lot of great stories that we like to tell. And they're funny stories. But what we wanted to do is kind of broaden that a little bit and make it not only about our stories, but how that relates to some pretty awesome music trivia that you might not know. So we thought we'd put together a little video series for you and just hopefully cheer you up a little bit, and so you can have a little fun and have a hang and drink your fee. That's what we call coffee. Like Doc over there, you're an insider. Now you know that's fee. So anyway, let's get started, shall we? First of all, a little bit of a bookkeeping here. We're going to try and do these about once a week. They'll be fairly short. And we encourage us. That's another new word. You can use that one anytime you want. We'd love it if you'd subscribe. You'll be kept up to date on when our next episodes are coming and yada, yada, yada. And that's at the very end. So go ahead and hang out to the end of that, the end of this to do that. Get it? Lord. Whiskey at 6 a.m. is not a good idea. I'm kidding.
Not that we've ever done anything like that.
Oh, no. But that is for another episode. So Doc and I have this habit of, after a bad gig, which don't happen very often, right, Doc? I mean,
No.
I mean, normally we're pretty lucky, right? Wouldn't you say, in terms of good gigs?
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, we there's only been a handful of them that are terrible. Every gig has little things, but those aren't a big deal. But there's I can think of a shotgun wedding one that we did that. Well, we can use that for another story.
Well, that will be a great story later on, because the only people who were under more pressure than the groom was the band. But we'll get to that later. Watch out for my head when you kick your foot out. Anyway. So we have this habit of, you guys have heard the song, I'm guessing, Incense and Peppermints by Strawberry Alarm Clock. If you haven't, I can't play a clip here because I have to pay for it. But it goes a little bit like this. Gwee goo, gee gwee goo. Creepy, right, Doc? See that? That's creepy. And we kind of like that chord change, right, Doc? I mean, every time you hear a chord change in the chorus, what does it make you think of?
It makes me think of the Glick brothers in Salem's Lot made-for-TV series with David Soul and Lance Kerwin. Let me in. Second-story window floating. I think, let's see, I was probably in 8th grade when I watched that, and my older brother had let me borrow the book, which, of course, ruined me. And then it was a 2-part, I believe, miniseries. And for a made-for-TV movie when you're a kid back in those days, that was one of the most frightening things when those brothers had the white contacts in. They were in their jammies, but were all dirty, and they're scratching at their buddy's window. Come on.
Yeah, that's pretty terrifying. And so Doc, when we first met each other, prior to even playing in the band, when I had to interview him, we discovered that we both had a real passion for scary movies and science fiction. We love that stuff. Jujuba. Anyway, so we both love scary things, and so we both fell in love with this really obscure song, Incense and Peppermints. But what we started to do when we would have the occasional awful gig was sort of change the lyrics on the way home to cheer each other up. And just a quick story about that. We were doing it was a corporate function. I don't want to say who it was for. It was a pretty big company. The band was cooking with gas. I think we sounded really good that night. And Doc, you remember a sort of a portly fellow wandering up and starting to yell at us because we weren't playing enough country music. You remember this guy?
I remember that guy.
Yes. And so he turns around and we're all kind of like this. You can't really do anything when you get challenged. But what he did is he looked like he forgive me. While he was dancing with some girl way too young for him, looks like he threw out his lower back. Do you remember that?
I do. I would say he was a little overzealous with his dance moves.
Yes. And so on the way home, Doc, I actually wrote this down. This is what I mean when I say we change the lyrics to cheer each other up. Dumb jerk, try to twerk, sprung butthole. All because he's a scuzz, no self-control. And the real scary part. Who cares? His farts bring pain.
Ow!
All because he messed with the band. So, but what that brings us to is thematically what we're going to do in our little webinars here.
Bring it all together. Bring it together for the people.
This is called the small bite, and now we're going to build that into the big enchilada. We
Thank you.
Assumed that the drummer was singing in Incense and Peppermints, and if you watch the original video, surely he is front and center. And so we wanted to build this story out into singing drummers. But Doc, we discovered something kind of interesting about this particular video.
I believe that was your nugget of information that you discovered. You did a little, what I like to call deep diving.
Due diligence, deep dive. So Doc and I were all fired up about talking about our singing drummers, which we'll get to in a minute, our favorites. But what we found out, if you watch this version of Incense and Peppermints, and I think it's from 1968 or 69, drummers front and center, bald, blonde, blue-eyed, handsome devil, I'd say. Come to find out, he's lip-syncing. He did not sing on this song. They put him front and center and had him lip-sync because he was the best-looking guy in the band, which... I mean,
who'd have thunk it?
Me. I mean, because...
No.
The crazy thing is the person who sang the lead to that song was a friend of theirs that they had in the studio that day who was there just to sing backup parts. They heard his voice. They had him track it. He never sang that song live with the band until later on during the reunion tour craze 20 years down the road or later. So how crazy is that?
That's crazy. Crazy like a fox.
It's so crazy it just might work. Which it did. That song went to #1. I think it was on the charts, not for too long, 3-4 weeks or something, but they still had a #1 record with that.
And we love it. We still love that song.
Love it. Great song. Very cheesy. But Doc, that takes me to...
Uh-oh.
Singing drummers. Let's talk about this a little bit. I'm gonna call out one of mine and you call out one of yours. How's that?
That sounds good to me.
I'm gonna start with Ringo, who...
your favorite drummer.
My favorite drummer of all time for many reasons, primarily because... Well, let me change that. He's one of my favorite drummers, and he plays in my all-time favorite band. But his playing was so unique because he was a left-handed drummer playing on a right-handed kit, right, Doc?
That's correct.
Yeah. So he would do these weird fills, like normally as an ex-drummer talking to a drummer, you start your fills normally with your right hand, right, Doc?
That's correct. If you're right-handed, you typically will start. If it starts on the downbeat, then yeah, you'll start with your right hand.
The downbeat is what?
That would be like the numbers, like 1, 2, 3, and 4. Not an upbeat would be like 1 and 2 and 3. It's a little music lesson for you this bright and early in the morning.
I'd call that a value add. So anyway, so Ringo's, and in the early days, right up into with a little help from my friends, which is probably his best known song. But John Lennon and Paul McCartney would always write one Ringo song per record to have him sing. Not the greatest voice in the world, but he's solid and just, like I say, an amazing drummer who changed the way people play drums and influenced countless drummers. Doc, I bet I know who you're going to go with next.
I got to go with Phil Collins.
Now, before you talk about Phil Collins and his singing, he's also a lefty, correct?
That's correct, but he is an orthodox lefty, meaning he said there's no such thing as a left-handed drum set. So our guitar player, James, is left-handed, and he uses left-handed guitars. You buy a guitar that's manufactured for left-handers. With drum sets, you don't buy a left-handed drum set. You just set it up left-handed if that's your preference.
Quick question. Do they
Yes.
have left-handed drumsticks?
Did
Oh,
So Phil, so Ringo plays right-handed lead, meaning he plays his grooves with his right hand, but every fill he starts with his left, which I think is one of the many reasons he gets a unique sound that's kind of hard to replicate. Phil plays left-handed 100%, meaning he sets his setup left, like Ian Pace, same thing from Deep Purple. Another full lefty drummer. Rod Morgenstein's lefty too. But that's for another episode.
So's the guy from Saga.
So anyhow, yeah, Phil's lefty. So I actually got into Phil through Genesis, because I went through my prog rock stage in like the late 70s, where I was listening to a lot of Genesis. I was listening to Kansas and obviously Rush. And I noticed that Phil sang, but he always sang backing vocals. But he was the guy in that band to sing backing vocals, and he did a good job with harmonies. When Peter Gabriel left, that's when Phil came out front, like another drummer I know. But I'll just quickly tell you, so I don't drag on, why I like Phil as a drummer. To me, he sings like a drummer, and he does really interesting rhythmic cadences when he sings, and he's got a very good command of rhythm, obviously, because he's a drummer. So he does really interesting things, especially when he's singing with other instruments, and it's almost like they're doing a duet. But he also drums like a singer. He has a really nice melodic sense to his drumming. So when he's playing, he's not just filling space. He's not just trying to cram a bunch of notes in. He's actually creating really nice melodic motifs and stuff. So that's why he's probably, I mean, there's a lot of great singing drummers, but he's probably my favorite one for those reasons. Plus, like, he's the first one that I really started to like study and get into.
Yeah, you know what? The point you make, which I think is a really good point, is the fact that he does play drums like a singer. And I'll bet everybody out there knows that lick from In the Air Tonight. Even if you've never played drums before, I bet you get your forks out and you go. Everybody knows that lick. It's a very melodic, rhythmic lick, and it does almost sound to me like a line I would sing in a song.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so I agree with that 100%. Now here's one I'm gonna throw a wild card at you, but I know you know this, Doc. The other people might not know.
Little curveball.
Aaron Carpenter was an amazing singer.
Yeah, my favorite female pop singer.
You cannot go wrong with that pitch perfect, beautiful, sulky, very melancholy but wonderfully rich voice. But a great singer too. And I'm trying to think. Later on, the Carpenters had a little. You might have heard of this guy, Hal Blaine. Ever heard of him? He played on just about every hit ever. This guy, you guys probably don't know it, but he did. He played in the Wrecking Crew and played on just about every huge, influential pop song. As in addition to just throwaways, like
pretty much owned the West Coast.
Yeah, on the West Coast. So the Carpenters later on went to him because they wanted Karen to be up front and sing. But Karen always considered herself a drumming singer. And if you listen to her playing, like in a song like the Carpenters' version of "Wait, Mr. Postman," and forgive me, not Day Tripper. It's it's a Beatles song. Do I have it written down? Oh, Ticket to Ride. Yeah. Ticket to Ride. She plays such intricate and beautiful, really great beats with feel in there. She really gets overlooked a lot, and I would encourage all you guys, if you just go to is it called the YouTube, Doc?
I think that's the one that's on the Google, correct?
Or on the Mozilla?
With the electronic mail?
Instabook. Yeah.
That's it.
It's on Instabook. That bit
never gets old.
Not to us, anyway. If you go to YouTube and just Google or search for Karen Carpenter drums, you will be amazed. She does a drum solo where she goes from timbales to a full drum kit. She just plays one of everything, and she's incredible. I bet I know who you're going with next.
Levon Helm?
Levon Helm, yeah.
Yeah. That guy, I don't even know how he was able to sing and play the greasy beats that he played. Because he played, to me, he's completely different than Phil Collins. So Levon has that grit in his voice where when he sings, it literally sounds like he's pouring his soul out. But while he's doing that, which in and of itself is enough, he's laying down the greasiest, most tastiest, most perfect grooves. And every fill he plays is like custom tailored for that song. Because a lot of times people will think of fills as a drum fill is just basically like punctuation in the English language. So if you have a phrase, typically a phrase is separated by a comma. If you have a statement, you have a period. So that's kind of what drum fills are. So drummers do two things in modern pop music. We play time, meaning keep a steady beat, and then we play these fills, which kind of separate sections of songs. So a lot of times drummers try to sneak in like the fill of the day or whatever they're working on, and it might work rhythmically, but maybe it doesn't add to the song. In fact, it can actually detract or take away from the song. Levon Helm never wasted one note. Regardless of whether he was laying down a groove or playing these amazing fills, everything he played was perfect. And then that soulful singing on top of it, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, dude, so much good stuff in what you just said. First of all, his voice was incredible. He would have been an amazing singer regardless. The fact that he plays so loose, and in musical terms for you guys, you might think of, when you think of a great drummer, you might think of Neil Peart, who is so precise to a microsecond, and he served that band so well in that capacity. But I think of loose guys like Jim Keltner, who played on Gypsy by Steely Dan, a little more wide open. I wouldn't say sloppy because I'll get a nose slap from
You will.
But what Doc says is true. They sit so far back in the pocket, it's almost like they're a microsecond behind the beat, and it just gives this amazing fat sound. And Levon Helm, boy, he was exceptional in both those arenas as a drummer and as a singer. Hard to top him. I'm going to do a couple honorable mentions, and then we'll finish up. Of course, Roger Taylor from Queen.
Oh, man. Could he sing high enough for you?
Good Lord, dog whistle. I want to know what he did with the clamp after every song, because that dude hit the highest notes. And you wouldn't think so because he sounds like Rod Stewart on his own. Like if you've ever heard I'm in Love with My Car or Sheer Heart Attack, the version that he sang. Very gritty voice.
Even his speaking voice is gritty.
Yeah, exactly. And yet he sang the most pristine high notes. Really, I just wonder if there was an alien probe behind him to get those notes. But hole in his drum throne or something. Get it? But he was incredible. And a multi-instrumentalist as well. He could play a lot of instruments and play them all pretty good. Of course, I'm not going to count Paul McCartney in here, Doc, but we know what he's my favorite musician.
Well, he plays everything.
He's everything. A great drummer, too, as well, although he doesn't really sing and play drums. But and finally, Don Henley. Ever heard of him?
Stevie Wonder.
And Stevie Wonder, yeah.
He can lay down some nasty beats.
There's some stink on the stuff. Doc, when we say there's some stink on that beat, real briefly, can you sort of explain that? What do we mean by that?
Stink on a beat means that when you hear a beat, it is so grooving and so locked in that you can't help but make a face like this. And when you make a face like that, it's like you're smelling something unpleasant. But real quick, one time Wyatt and I were at the NAMM show. And I have a friend that works for Aquarian Drumheads, and we were going to stop by and meet a bunch of our friends there. And we get up near the booth, and it's pretty crowded, and they have like a little sound, not soundproof, but a sound reducing booth where you could go in and try out some of their drum heads. Stevie Wonder was in there playing the drums. That's why there was a big crowd. And Wyatt and I are like standing going, oh my gosh, that's Stevie Wonder. And I mean, this was several years ago, but he wasn't like a spring chicken, even back then. And he was tearing it up.
Yeah, unbelievable. Like, I don't want to go into that cliche about God took his sight, so gave him other strings. But certainly that guy can play just about anything. And when we saw him playing drums that day, I mean, it was just incredible the feel he has. A lot of guys can play drums and sing, but not a lot of guys play drums and sing and they still serve the song, like Doc was talking about Leave on Helm, which is really the most important thing a drummer can do, is serve the song. And so just seeing him there tearing it up, and we've seen him sing and play before. He hasn't, but we have. Get it? Oh, and of course, I'll leave you with one more, because this just comes off the top of my head. It's very spontaneous. But Sammy Davis Jr.
Oh,
also a great drummer. And he would always tell the rest of Rat Pack, "Hey, fellas, I'll keep an eye out for you." Sorry. I'm sorry.
That guy could do everything. They don't make entertainers like that anymore.
Yeah, he was amazingly talented. We might talk about him in a later show.
We need to dedicate one episode just to him, because he's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and the thing, Doc, he did it at a time where black entertainers were not particularly beloved.
Yeah.
And just for the things he did and the way he did them. And did he have some help? Well, not with his talent, but certainly Frank helped open some doors for him. But I think he would have risen to the top anyway. I think that's it. So thank you guys. This is episode number 1's in the bag. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Once again, I am Kenny Wyatt West, and
Wake up,
slut!
I'm Rob Doc Farrell.
And you can call him Doc, by the way. That's his real nickname. And we'll see you guys later.